Good afternoon and welcome to another exciting episode of Watching the Paint Dry. Recently, Marco sent me a digital model of the Carcharodontosaurus from Jurassic Park Operation Genesis, which I haven't played. But I'll be damned if Carcharodontosaurus is not a fun dinosaur name to say. Now, Marco's models are always pretty detailed, but the detail on this thing is exquisite, and if I didn't know any better, I'd say that this might be a passion project. So I'm going to try not to screw it up. You'll have to forgive the ghetto rotation device as I can't afford a proper turntable at the moment. So because there's so much detail on this guy, I gave in to the little devil on my shoulder and I started out by giving him a thorough wash. I do believe there is ne'er a crack or crevice that I didn't get this liquidy pigment into. Once he was completely covered, I turned the fan on and left him alone for a minute. Alright, now we're going to dry brush this guy with a light gray color. So excuse me for one moment while I go ahead and do that. Well, this dry brush certainly is making all those details pop. Holy crap, look at that thing. I'm not sure I even want to know how many hours Marco spent detailing this sucker. Well, now that that dry brush is done, we're going to go ahead and hit his face with a little bit of black in the airbrush, being sure to get both sides so as not to have a lopsided dinosaur. And once that face is done, we're going to go ahead and work on that pattern on the back. Well, that pattern on the back is starting to look very patterny. Well, it is time to grab my very favorite tool of all time, the trusty toothpick, and drag some stripes down this guy's face. The stripes on the JPOG Carcharodontosaurus' face go all the way down past the top jaw and onto the lower jaw. And because the Carcharodontosaurus is not exclusively black and gray, he's actually got some brown on him, we're going to try to get some of that brown to show through by doing a little bit more dry brushing. Try being the operative word here. Now that he has been thoroughly dry brushed, we're going to go ahead and grab a toothpick again and work on some of the white patterns that just kind of outline that black pattern on his back. Once the outline is done, we're going to take that same toothpick and drag some of the stripes up into that black pattern from that outline. And you know what? Still not enough brown on this guy. Let's try and dry brush some more onto him. Now that he's been dry brushed again, we're going to take some of that same white we used to outline the patterns and do some very thin stripes on his thigh. And because, according to the reference material, the back of the Carcharodontosaurus is actually lighter than that black pattern, we're going to dry brush some lighter color onto the back. Upon closer examination of the reference material, it turns out that the patterns on the Carcharodontosaurus are actually a lot more complicated than they looked at first glance. So we're going to do some tweaking here and there and see if we can't fix it and get it to our liking. One of the tweaks we're going to do here is to actually take the toothpick and draw a black horizontal stripe inside of that black pattern that we painted on this dinosaur's back already. Okay, toothpick wasn't fat enough, we're going to use a brush. Okay, now that we have that stripe out of the way for now, we're going to start with the tail stripes. And of course, the tail stripes can't just be a simple stripe, they're actually kind of a droopy loop. So we're going to copy that from the reference material as best we can, although there might be room for improvement. Okay, I'm going to go back over those droopy loops and make them a little bit more irregular. They look just too uniform. You know, at this point, I want to say this guy's coming together, but I have my doubts. We'll just hit him with some more airbrush for squits and giggles. Just doing that old tracing the patterns thing, tying it into the rest of the paint. I think those stripes on the tail are a little bit more faint than I want them to be. Also, this bastard just doesn't have enough brownish in him. So here we go with the dry brush again. Alright, we're going to take a break from all that dry brushing and put some red on his brow. I'm going to start with the more dull reds and then gradually go into brighter reds. Try to make the transition from black and gray to red not super harsh and immediate. Alright, on to the next bit. The next bit in this case being the feet. With the feet done, we're going to go ahead and get the mouth with mouth color. Alright, that mouth color is starting to look very mouthy. Alright, now we are going to paint the teeth with some nice plaque, which is antique parchment and golden sunset. And while I am painting these tiny teeth, I cannot help but notice just how much freaking detail was put into this guy's face. I mean, but not just the face, the entire thing from tip to tail is incredibly detailed. Okay, let's paint those teeny tiny eyes now, and we are painting them yeller. And then brightening up the red on the brow. All done. Let's take him for a spin. Whee! I don't know. What do you guys think? Does this JPOG Carcharodontosaurus look JPOG Carcharodontosauri enough? Or should we give this one another go? You know what? F it. I'm gonna repaint this guy. Using some isopropyl alcohol on the cotton ball, I removed as much of the paint as I could and then added a nice stony browny base coat. And hopefully there is enough brown on the base coat that we don't have to add any more further along. Right now I'm just adding some different grayish colors and just building those patterns up slowly over the existing brown color that I probably should have started with from the beginning. We're doing the same basic thing that we did before, building up that, well, it's not really black, it's more of a very dark gray saddle pattern. Once that basic saddle pattern is done, I'm going to take some very watered down black, and I'm going to work on that horizontal stripe that's inside of that gray pattern on the back. And I'm using a floppy paintbrush to make this as irregular and splotchy as possible. Try to make it look more like a natural animal. And we're going to go ahead and hit those thighs too. It is very important not to skip leg day. Alright, we're going to do a little bit of dry brushing now so we can just lighten him up on the back right along the spine. And just so I don't regret not putting more brown on him later, we're going to add some more brown along the sides. Also, you might notice that the darker colors kind of fade out to lighter colors along his tail, which should make those stripes stand out a lot more. Remember, the stripes aren't just stripes, they are droopy loops. And we are going to apply the droopy loops with watered down black and a toothpick. Starting from the tip of the tail, I'm just going to work my way up towards the base of the tail and droopy loop the ever-loving crap out of this guy. As you do these patterns along the tail, just imagine that they're wet pasta noodles. Now, should you ever encounter pasta that is this particular color, it's probably far past its expiration date and you probably shouldn't consume it. But I am sure that it would make excellent stripes on a Carcharodontosaurus. We're going to go onto the face with a toothpick now, and we're going to pick out some individual scales, mostly around his eyes, but we'll do some along the lip line as well. There, he's looking better already. Alright, now we're just going to spray some darker gray on his face with the airbrush and tie in all of those speckles and spots a little bit better. We'll also drag his patterns down onto the tail and make those look a little bit more natural too. Now we're going to do that whole going over the patterns with the airbrush thing. This will give us an opportunity to make the droopy loops look droopier. Alright, at long last, we're going to do those face stripes now. Remember to drag them all the way down the face past the top jaw and onto the lower jaw. With the face done, we're going to go ahead and do that white horizontal stripe that outlines the black saddle pattern. That's going to go horizontally down his neck and outline that darker pattern a little bit. Remember to water down the crap out of your paint for this because we want this to be a very thin stripe. Once it's done on the body, we're going to go ahead and drag it down the tail just a little bit. Just on the base of the tail, not all the way down. And again, some white stripes on the thighs. Alright, those thigh stripes are bolder than I wanted to be, so I'm going to fade them in with a wet paintbrush real fast. Now I'm going to go in with a very, very dry brush with just a tiny bit of white paint on it and go over all those white bits. That's going to help to tie those into the surrounding colors a little bit. Kind of like going over the patterns with an airbrush, but for more patient people. Okay, now we're going to start building up those red colors on the brow, starting with the dullest, darkest reds, and working our way gradually up to brighter reds. Telling a Carcharodontosaurus that he has red eyebrows is dangerous business, so we want to ease him into this gradually. Time to paint those toenails with some toasted marshmallow. Actually, scratch that. First, we've got to do some dry brushing on the foot scoots. Because there's so much detail on this model, that dry brushing is pretty much obligatory. You gotta do the dry brushing to show off the detail on this thing. Alright, now we'll paint the toenails. Including the dew claw, which should go without saying at this point. My camera angle sucks, but we're also painting the fingernails. And the teeth. Alright, again, my camera placement sucks, but I'm painting the eyes right now. All done. I think that the Carcharodontosaurus is looking much more Carcharodontosaurus-y now. What do you guys think? Well, folks, that's the end of the video. Thanks for sticking around. If you enjoy my content, be sure to like and subscribe. If you'd like a chance to own whatever I made or painted in this video, be sure to check out my eBay and Etsy shops. And to see other projects that I've made, be sure to follow me on Instagram. I appreciate your support, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.